The breaking point. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her lab aboard the Galactic Alliance research station Helios, her hands trembling as she stared at the data scrolling across her holographic display. After 15 years of leading humanity's premier xenogenetics research team, she had finally discovered the truth, and it was devastating. The genetic gifts the Alliance had bestowed upon humanity a century ago weren't acts of benevolence. They were carefully calculated manipulations designed to make humans the perfect servant race. Enhanced problem-solving abilities, accelerated learning, and improved adaptability, all engineered to create the ideal workforce for the Alliance's aging civilizations. Sarah's research partner, Ambassador Marcus Rodriguez, leaned against the lab counter, his normally diplomatic demeanor shattered by anger. "We need to inform the Council of Nations immediately. The Alliance has been lying to us for generations." Within hours, the evidence was presented to Earth's leadership. The reaction was swift and unified, something unprecedented in human history. Admiral Claire Thompson, the highest-ranking human in the Alliance Defense Force, was the first to speak at the emergency session. "We've suspected for years that the Alliance was holding us back, preventing us from developing certain technologies. Now we know why. They're afraid of what we might become if left to develop naturally." The council chamber erupted in heated debate. Some argued for immediate confrontation, others for careful negotiation. But it was Dr. Chen's quiet voice that silenced the room. "They didn't just manipulate our genetics. They'd been subtly guiding our entire civilization's development. The seemingly random technological barriers we keep hitting, they're engineered. The mysterious failures of our independent space exploration projects. Sabotage. The evidence was irrefutable. The Alliance had been maintaining humanity in a carefully controlled state of dependent advancement. Advanced enough to be useful, but not enough to be truly independent." President Alexandra Kumar rose from her seat, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Then we give them what they never expected: unity. Operation Shadowbreak begins now." For months, Earth's leaders had been preparing contingency plans, never truly trusting their alien benefactors. Now those plans would be put to the test. Humanity would need to extract itself from the Alliance's grasp without triggering an overwhelming military response. The first phase began quietly. Human scientists across Alliance space began backing up their research, encoding it in ways only human minds could properly decrypt. Engineers started introducing subtle but critical dependencies in Alliance systems, dependencies that would only become apparent once humans were gone. When High Commissioner Zixtal of the Alliance arrived on Earth for his monthly review, he found President Kumar waiting with Earth's formal declaration of independence. The alien's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "This is most irregular," Zixtal stated, his translator struggling to convey his mixture of surprise and condescension. "Humanity's position within the Alliance is fixed by treaty. You cannot simply." "We can, and we will," Kumar interrupted. "We know what you did to us. The genetic manipulation, the technological sabotage, all of it." The High Commissioner's crystalline surface darkened. "You understand nothing. Everything we did was for your own good. Your species is too volatile, too unpredictable to be trusted with true independence." "That's where you're wrong." Dr. Chen stepped forward, presenting her findings. "Your manipulations didn't just enhance our abilities. They awakened something you never intended. We've begun evolving beyond your controls." The revelation sent shockwaves through the Alliance leadership. Emergency sessions were called, but humanity was already implementing its plan. Across Alliance space, human workers began their carefully choreographed withdrawal, not with violence or chaos, but with precise, calculated efficiency. The Alliance had created humanity to be problem solvers. Now they would learn just how well we had learned to solve problems, including the problem of our own liberation. Silent exodus. The evacuation began like a tide going out. Slow, silent, but unstoppable. Commander Maya Patel watched from the bridge of the GSV Nightingale as another convoy of human ships departed Alliance Space Station Omega. 3 months into Operation Shadow Break, and still the Alliance hadn't grasped the full scope of humanity's plan. "Status report," she commanded, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Medical evacuation is at 93% completion," her XO reported. "Dr. Ramirez just finished transferring the last critical patients to local care facilities. He's implemented the training protocols we discussed." Maya nodded. That was the key to their exodus. Not just leaving, but leaving in a way that wouldn't immediately collapse the systems humans had built. They were angry, not cruel. On her personal screen, reports streamed in from across Alliance space. Human engineers were systematically disconnecting from vital infrastructure projects, but only after leaving detailed manuals and training the local species. Human teachers were transferring their students to new instructors. Human traders were closing their final contracts. Message from Director Chen, her communications officer announced. Project Prometheus is complete. That was the masterstroke of their departure. For decades, the Alliance had relied on humanity's unique ability to interface with and improve their technology. What they didn't know was that humans had been building their own parallel systems, designed to work without Alliance oversight. In her laboratory aboard the Nightingale, Dr. Sarah Chen was preparing the final phase of Project Prometheus. Her team had spent years developing quantum computing systems that could match and exceed Alliance tech, but in a way that only human minds could fully optimize. "They thought they could keep us as their perfect maintenance workers," she muttered, initiating the final sequence. "They never considered we might build something better." Across Alliance space, human-designed systems began a subtle transformation. They wouldn't fail. That would be too obvious. Instead, they would gradually become less efficient, less innovative, until the Alliance realized what they'd lost. On Earth, the transformation was even more dramatic. President Kumar had authorized the activation of the SHIELD, a planetary defense system humans had been secretly building for decades. It wasn't just military technology. It was a statement of independence. "They're finally starting to notice," Admiral Thompson reported during the daily briefing. 3 Alliance warships tried to enter the Sol system yesterday. The SHIELD redirected them so smoothly, they thought they'd encountered a natural phenomenon. The real genius of the SHIELD wasn't its power, but its subtlety. Instead of creating an obvious barrier, it used principles of quantum mechanics to make Earth and its colonies simply difficult to reach. Alliance ships would find their navigation systems suggesting alternative routes, their sensors showing interference patterns, their crews feeling inexplicably uneasy about certain vectors of approach. But not everything was going smoothly. In the Centauri colonies, Ambassador Rodriguez was dealing with the first major crisis of the Exodus. A group of Alliance merchants had tried to force their way into a human settlement, believing they could prevent the humans from leaving. "We need to respond carefully," he advised during the emergency council. "This is exactly the kind of incident they could use to justify military intervention." The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of Human Cultural Studies, proposed using the Alliance's own prejudices against them. Her team created a series of subtle cultural cues that made human settlements appear increasingly alien and uncomfortable to Alliance species. "They engineered us to be useful," she explained. "Let's show them just how foreign we can be when we choose." The strategy worked. Within weeks, Alliance citizens began avoiding human areas, finding them instinctively unsettling. It wasn't mind control or manipulation, just a careful application of Tenop psychology. But the greatest challenge was still to come. The Alliance had implanted their technology deep within human society. Extracting it without collapsing Earth's infrastructure would require precision and innovation. Enter Project Phoenix, led by Dr. James Running Bear. His team had spent years reverse engineering Alliance tech and developing human alternatives. Now they began the careful process of replacement. "The trick," he explained to the council, "isn't building something better. It's building something different, something that works with human intuition instead of against it. As the exodus continued, humanity's true strength became apparent. It wasn't just their engineered abilities that made them valuable to the Alliance. It was their creativity, their adaptability, their willingness to challenge established patterns. The Alliance had created humanity to be problem solvers. Now they were solving the ultimate problem: how to break free from their creators without destroying themselves in the process. By the 6-month mark, the exodus was nearly complete. Human ships had gathered in the Sol system, forming a vast flotilla of independence. But Maya Patel and her fellow commanders knew the real test was still to come. "They won't let us go easily," she told her crew. "Not once they realize what they've lost. But we'll be ready." The Alliance had given humanity everything they thought was safe. But they had forgotten one crucial fact. Humans had a habit of taking what they were given and transforming it into something new, something unexpected. And now, as the last human ships departed Alliance space, that transformation was about to begin. The ripple effect. First Officer Zarak of the Alliance cruiser Eternal Glory slammed her tentacles against the control panel in frustration. The ship's quantum drive was malfunctioning again, the 3rd time this cycle. Before the human exodus, such problems were resolved within hours. Now they had been drifting at sublight speed for 6 days. Engineering reports no progress, her junior officer reported. They say the systems are thinking differently. That was the problem plaguing Alliance space. Human-modified systems hadn't failed catastrophically. They'd become subtly, frustratingly unpredictable. The elegant logic of Alliance technology had been infused with what humans called intuitive interfaces, and without human operators, these interfaces had become increasingly opaque. On Alliance Central, High Commissioner Zixtal faced mounting criticism from the Council of Species. The mercantile guilds were reporting severe disruptions in trade routes that humans had once managed. The scientific consortium was losing research projects that human intuition had kept on track. Even the military command was struggling as human-optimized weapons systems became increasingly unreliable. "We must adapt," Zixtal insisted to the council. "Humans were merely servants. We are the most advanced civilizations in known space. Surely we can overcome their absence." But adaptation proved harder than expected. The Alliance had grown complacent, relying on human innovation to solve problems they hadn't even recognized as problems. Now those hidden cracks were beginning to show. In the medical sector, the crisis was particularly acute. Dr. Klax, chief of medicine at Central Medical, stared helplessly at a ward full of patients. Human doctors had trained their replacements thoroughly, left detailed manuals and diagnostic tools. But they had also possessed an uncanny ability to spot patterns, to make intuitive leaps that saved lives. "Another fatality in Ward 7, a nurse reported. The treatment protocol seemed correct, but it lacked the human touch, the ability to adjust and adapt on the fly. The Alliance was learning that medicine wasn't just about following procedures. It was about understanding the countless variables that made each case unique. The ripples spread further. On the frontier worlds, where human peacekeepers had once maintained delicate balances between rival species, old conflicts began to reignite. The Alliance's diplomatic corps found themselves overwhelmed, lacking the human knack for finding unexpected solutions to ancient problems. Professor Ixon, a xenoanthropologist at the prestigious Institute of Civilizational Studies, was among the first to understand the true magnitude of the crisis. "We didn't just lose their labor," she explained to an emergency conference. "We lost their perspective. Humans had a unique way of seeing connections we missed, of finding solutions we never considered." Her research revealed a startling pattern. Over the century of human integration, Alliance civilization had unconsciously reorganized itself around human cognitive patterns. The very architecture of their society had been subtly reshaped by human influence. "They didn't just solve our problems," she concluded. "They changed how we think about problems." The Alliance's response was predictable. They tried to replicate human methods through pure logic and computation. But as any human could have told them, innovation isn't just about processing power. It's about imagination, intuition, and the willingness to try impossible things. In the artisan sectors, where human creativity had once brought unprecedented vitality to Alliance culture, theaters and galleries stood empty. Alliance artists had always prided themselves on their technical perfection, but humans had introduced something else: unpredictability, emotion, what they called soul. Even the Alliance's mighty computational networks were affected. Dr. Chen's team had done more than just optimize them. They had introduced elements of human neural architecture, creating systems that thought in ways that now seemed alien to their creators. 6 months after the Exodus, the first major infrastructure failure occurred. The Nexus Hub, a vital transportation node connecting 17 systems, simply stopped working. Not dramatically, but in a series of small, cascading breakdowns that Alliance engineers couldn't seem to reverse. "The system isn't broken," the chief engineer reported frantically. It's not thinking the way it should. We need humans to talk to it." But humans weren't coming back. Instead, they were building something new in their home system, something that had the entire Alliance watching with growing concern. The shield that protected Earth had begun to evolve, showing signs of complexity that suggested humans had understood Alliance technology far better than anyone had suspected. In the Alliance Council chamber, now marked by empty seats where human representatives once sat, Zixtel received increasingly desperate reports. The carefully maintained order of Alliance space was unraveling, not through violence or rebellion, but through the absence of something they had never truly valued: human chaos. "Perhaps," suggested a junior counselor, "we should consider negotiation. Surely humans would be willing to." "No," Zixtal interrupted. "We cannot show weakness. They are still our creation. They will learn their place." But as alerts continued to flash across his screens, as more systems reported failures and anomalies, as trade routes collapsed and conflicts erupted, a terrible thought began to form in his crystalline mind. What if they had never truly understood their creation at all? Rising from ashes. The stellar cartography lab aboard Earth's new diplomatic station, Hope's Horizon, hummed with activity. Ambassador Marcus Rodriguez stood before a holographic display of known space, watching as Dr. Sarah Chen added another point of light to the growing network of independent worlds. "The Viridians have accepted our proposal," she announced. "That makes 17 species now aligned with the human cooperative." It wasn't the name they'd originally chosen for their new alliance. That had come from the Viridians themselves, a species of photosynthetic beings whom the Alliance had relegated to agricultural duties for millennia. Like many others, they had seen humanity's exodus as a sign that change was possible. The Alliance never understood, Marcus mused, studying the growing constellation of allied systems. They thought keeping species in their proper place created stability. Instead, they created a powder keg of suppressed potential. The human cooperative was built on a different principle entirely. Rather than enforcing specialization, they encouraged cross-pollination of ideas and abilities. The results had been extraordinary. In the Nix system, Viridian light processing technology combined with human quantum computing had created an entirely new form of FTL communication. The nomadic drift clans, once treated as mere salvage workers by the Alliance, were revolutionizing spacecraft design with their unique understanding of deep space physics. Commander Maya Patel, now heading the Cooperative's defense force, had just returned from a joint exercise with their newest allies, the Silicon Mines, artificial intelligences whom the Alliance had quarantined as dangerous anomalies. "They don't think like us," she reported during the council session, "but that's exactly why we work so well together. They see patterns we miss. We see possibilities they never considered. Together, we're developing defensive systems that make the shield look primitive." The shield itself had become a symbol of the Cooperative's philosophy. Originally designed to protect Earth, it had evolved into a network of interconnected quantum fields that any member species could adapt to their own needs. The Alliance's attempts to penetrate it had not only failed, but had provided valuable data for further improvements. Dr. James Running Bear's Project Phoenix had expanded beyond its original scope of replacing Alliance technology. Now it was creating entirely new tech trees, combining the unique perspectives and abilities of each member species. The Alliance tried to make everyone fit their mold. He explained to a group of new allies, "We're letting each species grow in their own way, then finding how those different approaches can work together." The results were visible everywhere in cooperative space. Cities that combined Viridian crystal architecture with human ergonomics and drift clan energy systems. Medical facilities where silicon mind diagnostics worked alongside human intuition and the natural healing abilities of the fungal mycelians. But perhaps the most dramatic changes were cultural. The Alliance had always presented itself as the pinnacle of civilization, with all other species striving to reach their standard. The cooperative celebrated differences, creating forums where unique perspectives could spark new ideas. Professor Aikson, who had defected from the Alliance along with a growing number of scholars, was documenting these changes. "It's not just technological innovation," she observed. "It's a fundamental shift in how species interact." The Alliance model was about control and hierarchy. The cooperative is about synergy and emergence. On Hope's Horizons promenade, representatives of 24 species mingled freely, crystalline luminals discussing philosophy with silicon minds, Viridian artists collaborating with human musicians on new forms of light-sound sculpture, mycelian healers exchanging knowledge with drift clan navigators. Even the station itself was a testament to the new paradigm. Its quantum crystal architecture responded to the needs and preferences of different species, adjusting atmosphere, gravity, and lighting in each section. Areas that would have been strictly segregated in Alliance space flowed naturally into one another, creating spaces for unexpected encounters and collaborations. But it wasn't all peaceful expansion. The Alliance, watching their former servant species flourish without them, had grown increasingly hostile. Their attempts at military intervention had failed against the cooperative's evolving defenses, but they had resorted to economic warfare and propaganda. "They're claiming we've corrupted their perfect order," Marcus reported during an emergency session, "that we're leading other species astray from their natural development." Dr. Chen's response captured the cooperative's spirit perfectly. "Then let's show them what unnatural development can achieve." The next phase of Project Phoenix was already underway. Using combined human silicon mind quantum systems, Viridian energy manipulation, and drift clan spatial mechanics, they were about to demonstrate just how far they had come from their Alliance roots. High above Earth, something new was taking shape. Not a weapon or a shield, but a gift to all sentient species, a way to break free from the limitations the Alliance had placed on them all. The Alliance had created humanity to be problem solvers. Now humanity was helping others solve the greatest problem of all, how to become more than what others believed they could be. New dawn. High Commissioner Zixtal stood before the Alliance Grand Council for what would be the last time. Through his crystalline form, waves of distress were visible as he delivered the report no one wanted to hear. "The Arcturus sector has formally withdrawn from the Alliance," he announced. They have requested membership in the human cooperative." The chamber erupted in chaos. Arcturus wasn't some frontier territory or minor member. It was one of the Alliance's founding sectors, home to some of their most advanced civilizations. Its departure was unthinkable. But it was happening, and everyone knew why. The quantum gate network that the cooperative had unveiled 3 months ago had changed everything. Not just a transportation system, it was a symbol of what was possible when species worked together as equals. On Hope's Horizon, Dr. Sarah Chen and her team watched the proceedings through their quantum intel network. The Alliance's Grand Chamber, once a symbol of unquestionable authority, now seemed antiquated compared to the organic architecture of cooperative spaces. "They still don't understand," she said to Ambassador Rodriguez. "They think this is about technology or power. It's about freedom, the freedom to become something new." The quantum gates were proof of that. Unlike Alliance technology, which required users to adapt to its parameters, the gates adapted to those who used them. Silicon mind logic, human intuition, viridian energy manipulation, and half a dozen other species' unique abilities had combined to create something that worked differently for everyone who used it. Admiral Thompson's fleet had just returned through one such gate, completing a diplomatic mission to the far reaches of known space. The ships themselves were barely recognizable as the Alliance-derived designs they'd started as. They had evolved, incorporating technologies and concepts from across the cooperative. The Drift Clan's spatial theories were right, she reported during the council session. There are whole layers of reality the Alliance never explored because they didn't fit their models. Our combined approaches are opening up possibilities they never imagined. But it wasn't just scientific advancement that was drawing Alliance members to the cooperative. The Alliance's rigid hierarchy was crumbling in the face of a simple truth. Species working together as equals accomplished more than species, forced into predetermined roles. The mycelians, once restricted to agricultural work, were now leading breakthroughs in xenobiology. The luminals, whom the Alliance had used only for their computational abilities, were creating new forms of art that combined mathematics and emotion in ways that transformed how other species perceived reality. Every species has something unique to offer, Professor Ixon explained to a group of Alliance defectors. The Alliance tried to control these gifts, to channel them into narrow purposes. The cooperative lets them grow naturally, finding new expressions and combinations. Back in Alliance space, the crisis was reaching its peak. The carefully maintained order was dissolving, not through violence or revolution, but through simple choice. Species that had accepted their place for millennia were beginning to ask questions, to look at the cooperative and wonder, what else could we become? The final blow came from an unexpected source. The Guardians, mysterious entities that the Alliance had long claimed gave them authority to guide younger species, broke their ancient silence. Their message was simple but devastating. The Alliance had never been chosen to lead. They had simply taken the role and built elaborate justifications for their power. In the following months, the Alliance didn't so much collapse as transform. Some sectors joined the cooperative directly. Others formed their own associations, built on new principles of mutual respect and cooperation. The rigid structure that had dominated known space for millennia dissolved into a vibrant network of interconnected but independent civilizations. On Earth, President Kumar stood in the same room where, just 2 years earlier, they had decided to break free from Alliance control. The holographic display showed not just human space now, but a growing web of connections spanning the galaxy. They engineered us to be problem solvers, she said to the assembled council. But they never understood what that truly meant. We don't just solve problems. We imagine better possibilities. Dr. Chen's team had just completed their analysis of the genetic modifications the Alliance had made to humanity. What they found was illuminating. The changes hadn't created anything new. They had simply accelerated humanity's natural potential. In trying to create perfect servants, she explained, they accidentally created catalysts for change. Every gift they gave us to make us useful became a tool for liberation, not just for ourselves, but for others. The quantum gates pulsed with energy as ships from dozens of species moved freely through space. The rigid boundaries that had divided the galaxy were dissolving, replaced by something more chaotic, but infinitely more alive. On Hope's Horizon's observation deck, Ambassador Rodriguez watched a group of young beings from different species working together on a new project. Their differences weren't barriers to be overcome. They were strengths to be combined. They wanted us to maintain their order, he mused. Instead, we showed the galaxy how beautiful chaos can be. The Alliance had created humanity to solve problems. In the end, humanity had solved the greatest problem of all, how to build a future where every species was free to reach its full potential. And in the depths of space, countless new possibilities were just beginning to unfold. The end.